Hello, everybody. Good, that's some start, isn't it? Hello, everybody. Good evening and welcome along to the Monday Night Rabble here on the Rangers Rabble podcast. Please like, share, subscribe, and all that good stuff. All the links are in the description and all that jazz. As you can probably tell from my over-exuberant introduction, I'm not in a great place when it comes to Rangers. So we'll see. I'm hoping Mark cheers me up tonight. Mark usually is. He's usually the man to cheer me up. Mark, how are you?
I'm all right, mate. I'm not bad at all. How's your good self? You all right?
Nah.
Yeah.
Just nah.
I was just saying. I was telling everybody. I was just saying. I like your haircut. It's tidy.
It's not tidy. It's not grown back in certain places. Is what it is.
You don't look like a paraffin lamp anymore.
I'm hoping that within the next couple of months I do. That's my hope anyway.
That is your look, the paraffin lamp look, the tramp.
Yes, and I also need to get my lights fixed in this room. But however, that's a topic for another day. Alex, are you alone yet?
No, I actually had to mute that mic there. Like the Waynes were like running in after bath time. I'm like, right, wait a minute, what's going on here? So I'm now all alone, but it's that time of the night. Waynes are running about, they're banging at the door, wanting to come in. But
yes. Right, well, please, folks, do get your. I mean, I will try and make myself a little bit happier as the show goes on. I apologise for coming on all depressed, but please get your comments in. I will try and get as many comments up as I can. Get your questions in as well. Get your questions in. I like good questions. Get your super chats in, all that sort of stuff. Help support the show, etc., etc., etc. Mark, let's just start as we mean to go on, shall we? Did that 3-1 win over Hearts do anything for you?
Nope, not at all. Lackluster. Nervous, anxious, and that was just me watching it. Terrible performance. And do you know the only takeaway? You know me, I always like to try and put a positive spin in it, and I am struggling, I can assure you. But this is generally what teams do to us, or have done to us the last season and a half, 2 seasons. We've played far better than them, and they've bet us by scoring goals. The strangest game of football I've watched for a long, long time.
Almost as strange as Mark's internet, Alex.
It's been a fair bit of struggling there, isn't it? It's no
cool. He's back. This has obviously been the greatest start to it, and I don't like calling it a podcast, right? I prefer to call it a show. I think it sounds more professional, but it's a podcast, right? This has been the most professional start to a podcast I think there's ever been. Sorry, Mark, you're back with us.
I don't think he is, to be fair.
Only just, I was hoping we would save me the misery.
Yeah. Look, Alex, yes, we're kind of getting you. You're lagging a wee bit, to be fair, but do you know what? I will push through. Alex, I just want to be brutally honest about how I feel, right? Because there's been, do you know, I'm going to be honest with everybody watching, and maybe people don't really care. I have put stuff on socials before, and it has came across as if it's not just my opinion, it's the right opinion. And that's not what I mean. Anything that I say, anything that anybody says on here is their own personal opinion. I don't pretend that we speak for supporters. I don't pretend anybody on the show speaks for supporters. We certainly don't speak for the football club. It's just all personal opinion, right? Alex, I watched that Hearts game and I was slightly annoyed at how we performed. I did not, and this is maybe a really poor look on me, did not celebrate a single goal that we scored, and I had no emotion when Hearts scored either.
I mean, I tried to keep it going because I was doing the watch along, but I spoke to Connor after the game, and I spoke to Brian as well, and it was just a bit of it was one of those games that you're never gonna remember it. You're never going to remember that game. And it's, as Mark said, he's away again. But it's as Mark said, it's one of those games, it's done what teams have done to us over the past. The fact that we managed to play so poor. There was no urgency in a lot of our play. There was no tempo. A couple of opportunities when a certain man came on. But see, apart from that, we actually played Hearts at their own game, and they were the ones that were their own downfall, because Rangers done nothing in that game to deserve a 3-1 win. I mean, the first goal that went in, yes, it's an own goal, but it's a good ball from Hadji, but the defender, McCart, can do nothing about it. He can't get out of the road. Like, Gordon's pushed that onto his leg, but even then, you're like, oh, good goal for McCart. You know, that's a striker's goal if you've ever seen one. He's in there, but there was no passion from anybody, and you could see it. Like we spoke about, the manager was starting to come out of shell a bit and show a bit of passion on the touchline. He looked so disinterested, just like all the players did. And I don't think there was many that actually got pass marks from that game. The only player that you could say got pass marks would have been Jack Butland, because he kept us in that game and stopped it being a good win for Hearts.
I mean, Alan, channel member Mark, saying that as well. Butland saved us. One of Butland's best performances for a while. Nah. I'll take that straight back to you, Alex.
It probably. I'm sitting here waiting on Mark talking, but he's looking so interested that he can't get your question out. But it's probably one of Butland's best performances. He looked like the Butland we had when we first signed him. Then he obviously went out when he, I think, was it his child was being born. He went out, and that was like his first spell out of the first team. And then he had that that scare, and he was in hospital. But I don't think we've seen Jack Butland for a while. I said it when we were watching the game. There was an opportunity where Jack Butland came out and he punched it, and I was like, oh, he needs to be careful. Every time he punches it with one hand, it ends up in the back of his own net. So it showed you the confidence we actually had with Jack Butland going into this game. And I think that's the same for all our goalkeepers, but I think it was one of his best performances in a Rangers jersey. He actually did so well to keep Hearts out, because although a lot of the shots weren't world class, they were still needing saved, and Jack Butland pulled out some phenomenal stops to actually keep it Rangers in front. Even when it was nothing each, Hearts were banging down the door, and up stepped Jack Butland.
Yeah, you've put in the private chat there, Mark, one last try. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Yeah. I have no idea what's going on. Usually it's pretty good here, but for some reason there's a lot of bodies on board as well. So I dare say everybody in the run.
Nah, he's gone again.
I dare say that Mark's internet has absolutely went. Yeah. I mean, look, we've got a super chat here for Gaz, right? And I want to talk about Igamane as well tonight, Alex, because he's come out and said that he's not happy with his own form, and we'll maybe take a wee look at that and ask why. I think there's been a bit of trepidation for supporters to maybe have a wee look and have a wee chat about Igamane, because we know the potential that he's got. And the last thing we want to be doing is downplaying probably our most valuable asset, right? So we'll come on to that. But Gaz, super chat, thank you very much, my friend. I can't wait until I come over and come on and hear the news that Clement is gone. Wouldn't that be a happy day? Yes, it would be, Alex. But see, the more you look around European football, right? I get it. Clement doesn't really seem to have a style of play. He comes out with some weird stuff in press conferences. I think most of the supporters have lost trust. But the issues at our football club, and like I say, you look around Europe, look at the club that we're compared to all the time in terms of the stature in the leagues that we have and how we've fallen, Manchester United. It's not just on the manager.
No, I think there's a lot more that goes on. It's just a manager. He's obviously the person that's got to take a lot of the flack, because it's his team selection and it's what he's working with. It's his tactics. It's his game plan. But the players have to look at themselves as well, because they've been picked to go out and do a performance. A lot of fans wanted to see a reaction from the players. The fact that we lost to Queen's Park, we put out the cup. There was no news, no anything from the club. It was radio silence until the Friday. And we wanted a lot more than that. But there's obviously higher up. You've got to go up into the boardroom level as well. And you've got to actually do a proper in-depth review of the club, because something isn't working. You know, we've had so many managers. Since you could go back to Steven Gerrard when he won the last league title we've had so many managers that haven't either been backed or the wrong manager's been back. You look at Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, took us to a final, European final, then wasn't backed after it. Then it was given to Beale, was backed and just wasn't the manager for us. Then Clement's looked like he was being backed and not backed at the same time. And it's just, he seems to be out of his depth. Then when he gets a good run of form, he gets the backing of some support, but there's obviously support that's going to be knowing what Clement's like. And then we come back to results like that where you're getting a win, but it doesn't feel like a win.
And it's going to feel like that now, Alex, I think, for the seeing, and I think I said this on the reaction, seeing less, and by the way, guys, thank you very much for the super chat, my friend. Seeing less Celtic miraculously drop points, which, let's be honest, they don't look like doing. And when I say drop points, Alex, I'm talking about 3-4 games dropping points, which I really don't see happening at all. Is every league game, are we going to feel this way after every league game?
Probably, aye. I think it's going to be the case that unless we see a dramatic fall from grace from Celtic, we're not going to get anywhere near them. When you look at the fact that they've got Bayern Munich tomorrow night, but they're still putting on performances against like Bayern Munich, and then in the league, regardless of what team they're playing, they're still blowing them away. We said this last night in the Scottish show, Martin, they're not failing against any team. So where's the fault are going to come? If we somehow beat them at Parkhead, that's only one game that they drop points. No other team in the league looks like they're going to take points off them. So there's actually not going to be much opportunities for us to claw these points back. So back to your original question, yeah, I think pretty much every game, unless there's a game we win and they drop points, pretty much every result's going to feel like it's a win, but it's a win that doesn't actually mean anything. We're just stopping that gap from going into the 20s. Right.
Before we come to Igamane, right, there's a couple of things I wanted to bring up. The youth, obviously. Finlay Curtis getting a minute. Fernandez getting a minute on the pitch. Strange to me, right?
Yeah.
What's even more strange to me, though, and it alludes into the super chat I'm going to bring up for channel member Elbow, is that Bailey Rice got 0 minutes. None. Now, I know there'll be people watching this. There'll be people who probably watch every episode that we put out, and they'll be saying, Martin, go on and shut up about Bailey Rice and about the youth. There'll be people who think they're not good enough. There'll be people who think it doesn't make a difference if we play Raskin and Dio or Bailey Rice and Raskin or Bailey Rice and Dio. Martin, just shut up about it, right? But Alex, it's something that I feel quite passionate about. And when I look and I see, and listen, who am I, right? I'm just like a fat baldy guy who talks about Rangers. I say it all the time, right? But I see Bailey Rice as having the potential to be a really good player for us. A player who's got the potential in the future to make us money, or a potential to be part of a team that can then go on and win things for us, right? I see it might not be the case. He might not be good enough. But we need to start giving the younger players who have potential, Alex, minutes. And Airwolf is saying in his super chat, thank you for the support, my friend. Could we have got Lennon Miller? And I know I always go on about Lennon Miller and it's a running joke and blah, blah, blah. But I'm no joking this time. Could we have got Lennon Miller for the Bayrami money? We probably could have, Alex. We probably could have.
See, at the start of the season, you would have been biting the hand off to get Lennon Miller for the money that we played for Bayrami, because when you look at the way that Lennon Miller's season's panned out, playing for a pretty poor Motherwell team, he'd have fitted into our system brilliant. We'd have played him in that number 10 role and he would have just kicked on, and we could have been talking here that we've got a great player in our hand rather than actually being priced out, because let's face it, somebody like Lennon Miller we're not going to be able to afford come the summer. We're going to get priced out. There's going to either be Italian opposition that seem to pick up Scottish talent like it's nothing, or he's going to go down south into the Premier League or a Championship club, and we're going to lose him. But when you go back to youth, Bailey Rice is a man that Clement publicly backed. He said that he was going to get in the dressing room, he was going to get minutes, he was going to get in the team. To then not put him on in that game yesterday when you're 3-1, yes, near the end of the game, Hearts put on a lot of pressure. They were trying to get that second goal. But why would you then put on Fernandez? You're taking off your right back and putting on a centre back, and then you're taking off. Who did he take off for Curtis? Who came off for Curtis?
Oh, I can't remember now.
I couldn't even tell you. But my point is that he's publicly backed Bailey Rice, and then because he got whipped off after 45 minutes against Queen's Park, he's then banished to being back on the bench and not actually getting on.
Not only taken off after 45 minutes, but the manager then coming out and saying he was taken off because he didn't do A, B, and C.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm sorry, right? There's no language barrier there, right? If you've got a young player, you protect them as much as you can. Now, I don't mean protect them by not playing them, but what I mean is you give them a sustained period in the team, you bring them out and put them in when it needs to be, but they have to be given a structured run in the team, for lack of a better term. What you don't do after 45 minutes and one of the worst results in your football club's history in the Scottish Cup, the worst home result in our club's history, is then come out and try and lay it on the back of an 18-year-old.
He threw him under the bus, and that's exactly what he did. I mean, there was a lot of players in that game that had much worse performances, and I don't think Bailey Rice was a culprit. He did his job, but his job wasn't to make groundbreaking passes and break through the lines and get those going. His job was to sit as a number 6 and defend and not let Queen's Park get forward, which he did. But when you look at the fact he's whipped off after 45 minutes, then he whips off Hadji, why is that then Bailey Rice's fault? He's off when it's nothing each. We're still in the game and we're not actually looking too bad. Yes, we didn't get a goal, we couldn't break them down, but that's not Bailey Rice's fault. That's on your front four. So then to hammer at the point that he didn't look good, we need to take him off. So then he doesn't get on against Hearts. When does he actually get back on the pitch? When is he going to get back in? Because if he's not good enough to play against Hearts when we're 3-1 up, the game's pretty much done. You bring off Dio, you put on Bailey Rice and go, right, you played with Dio, now play with Raskin, let's see what you can do. No, we'll just leave him on the bench, we'll bring on Fernandez and we'll bring on Curtis. He's just, his ideas are just completely wrong at this point, Martin, because the way that he's going on, I don't think he understands what he's saying 1 week to the next. Why is he saying that, he needs game time, get in the dressing room, right, he was the worst player, we need to get him off, and now he's that bad that we actually can't play him, but he's a player for the future. He gave Finlay Curtis a new deal, and he's played, 6 minutes, because he played 1 minute plus the 5 minutes of injury time. So he's played 6 minutes since he signed a new deal.
Yeah. Connor, welcome. How are you, my friend?
Evening, yes, not too bad. I was in the middle of just kicking back, relaxing, waiting for the EPL show at 9 o'clock, and I seen the SOS call going out, so thought I'd pop on and give you a hand.
This was my thoughts exactly, by the way. Connor looked fuming when he came in.
You looked raging.
You just look raging. You're like, interrupt my time here, by the way. Interrupt me.
Right. Apologies, Connor. I was going on a rant about the youth. Just fed up with the whole situation, blaming Bailey Rice. But look, we'll swiftly move on for that because I've spoke so much on this, and like I say, people are absolutely fed up with me probably banging on about the youth. So I apologise, folks, but I will continue to do it. Connor, the crux of the show, not the crux of the show, but the title of the show tonight, because I've seen it somewhere, is that Igamane is not happy with his own form.
Yes.
And I tend to agree with him, Connor.
Well, I mean, yeah, his form's dipped. There's no getting away from that. The last few games, it's not been the usual levels that we expect to see for Hamza Igamane. I think you could actually make a strong case that Cyril Dessers is actually now performing better than Igamane. But listen, it's peaks and troughs. These things happen. He's a young lad, which people have to remember as well. He's also a youngster, so he's going to have moments where he will go through wee rough patches. Unfortunately for us, it's came at a bad time. But I like his honesty. I like the fact that he recognises that himself. And knows that, because that gives you the faith that he will be determined to put it right and to pick up his form again. And listen, it can't be easy either, because bear in mind he came out the back of the January transfer window with all this speculation that had been surrounding his head about all these different clubs being interested in him. We're hearing like Everton and this club and that club and, potentially big money. And for any young lad, that can be a distraction. That should now all be behind him, and I'm sure he will pick up the form again. His goal scoring record, in terms of just minutes per game per goal, is right up there. It really is, even if he hasn't, scored the last few games he's played in.
Absolutely. And do you know what? One of the biggest things for me, anyway, Alex, to point out in all of this is that he's a young player who's come into the league, right? Now, I'm going to give Clement credit because what he's doing with Igamane is he's letting him play through the dip in form, which is what he should be doing with Bailey Rice and Finlay Curtis and Fernandez and Ciala, etc., etc., etc. I've got no issue, Alex, with a young player, Igamane, who has a massive future at us going through a dip in form. You can see him he's not happy with himself on the pitch, Alex, right? And by no means am I sitting here going, well, Igamane's form's terrible, he needs to pick that up, that's not good enough. He's a young player going through a bad-ish patch, and he's still nowhere near one of our worst players week in, week out.
No, he's nowhere near one of the worst players. He is trying. He's trying to get through that dip. But there was a bit in yesterday. There was a bit in the game on Sunday where when Dessers came on that pitch, Igamane moved back into the 10. He was actually playing some of his best football in the 10 because he had the freedom. See, when he's up top, he's got to concentrate on. It's a defender and the goalkeeper that he's got to take on. When he was in that 10 role yesterday, he was taking on the goal. He was taking on defenders, and he flicked it over two players' heads. He nutmegged another player, and then got a shot away, but there was a block in it. But he's actually starting to. I think that's going to be a role where Igamane might play. And I think when you look at the way that he played, Dessers, people are saying, "Oh, he's striker. He should be up the pitch." Dessers got the ball back in his own half, held up the ball, managed to play in Raskin, and Raskin just played it a bit too far. The Igamane couldn't get on it. But I think playing Igamane at 10, we might actually start seeing that form coming back because he can express himself in that role. And I think that's where we're going to see him play because we're having a bit of an issue with the 10 right now. Obviously, we've got Lawrence has just come back in, but he's not. I don't think he's good enough to play for Rangers now. You've got Bayrami who's struggling with form. Igamane's struggling with form as well, but I think he's looked the best out of the three in that role. And if you've then got Hadji and Cherney providing to him and him providing to Dessers or having a pop himself, I think that could be your front four going forward.
Yeah, I mean, AJ's saying, I can't believe this is even worth talking about bigger issues. Well, I mean, we could sit here every single show and talk about the board and talk about the manager and talk about the manager needs to go, the board needs to go. But that gets a bit repetitive and boring. So when a player comes out and talks about his form, Connor, I think that is worth a wee chat.
Of course it is. We can only, speak about what is in the news and what's coming out of the club. And that's one of the things that is coming out of the club. He's saying that himself. We are obliged to discuss it. If we just ignore when our players come out and say, listen, I know I'm not playing well, then that's poor from our point of view. So of course it's worth a chat. And look, nobody's bashing Igamane. Not one of us has done that. We're all saying that yes, we agree with what he said, that his form has dipped off it, that he's not been playing towards his best levels. But the fact, as I said there, the fact that he recognises that himself tells you that he'll get back there sooner rather than later. Listen, at least he's in the team and he's trying and he's playing through it. When you look at Danilo, £6 million, and I keep on labouring it when I talk about him, that we spent for Danilo, and he's dropped out the team once again. That can't keep happening. And I still think he's a decent player. I think he's shown that. He's had impacts when he's came on in certain games.
Can we really have a go at Danilo for that, though? He's not getting injured on purpose. Can we really lay that at his door?
But why is it happening, though? We had it with Kemar Roof, talented striker, but constantly injured. Why is Danilo, who before he came to us had zero record of injury problems like this, all of a sudden he's injured all the time now every time he comes back? I don't, are players like Danilo, is it that he's been rushed back too quick when he's come off his last long injury layoff and then he's niggled it again and that's causing the problems? These are things we have to look at, because I tell you what, you don't see on the other side of the city. You don't see them having strikers in and out the squad because they're injured every 5 minutes. That doesn't happen, and that's a consistency you need as well, especially because he's a decent player, is Danilo. I think it's one of those ones. It's unfortunate for him. I still hope he can bounce back and keep himself fit when he comes back, because he can add as I said, he's had impacts on games. He came on against St Mirren, for example, and I know we ended up losing that game, but he brought us right. He dragged us back into that game because he came on and he was full of energy. He wanted to make things happen. He got his goal to level it up and was let down, as we had by poor defending. So he has that in him. And you need that. Sometimes you need a spark who can come on for 10, 15 minutes and just lift the energy levels. And I think Danilo brings that when he's at it.
Right, yeah, I want to bring up that comment for John Moffat in a minute. Right, but Alex, I completely understand where Connor's coming from. Right, Danilo injury, and the same with Kmart, if players are going to be constantly injured, then they're not used to your football club. Right. And he was £6 million or £5.5 million or whatever it was, which for Rangers is a hell of a lot of money. Right, I get that. But we're not having the same discussion about Dujon Sterling because he cost £200,000. So he's never available. He's always injured. But we're never on here saying, well, Sterling's got to get back in the team and start contributing.
I mean, you look at the fact that we've got Cortez, who we're going to have to pay £4.5 million for. He's injured, never in the team. Danilo's never in the team. Connor Barron is now back. He's out injured and looks like he's on his way back. Sterling, there's 4 key players that could help this team massively in positions that we are probably struggling. Sterling at right back because we've got to play Tav. We don't have that backup. We're saying that we're struggling with wingers.
10 million on 2 players who are never fit.
And we're talking about that we've got players here that we're moaning about, but there's 4 players that could have impact on our team. Sterling we were talking about the utility man, could play all over that back line in the midfield where we needed him. Yet he's been out for how long now? Danilo, how long's he been out? He's missed most of this season. Cortez has played 1 game all season. We're gonna have to spend £4.5 million on him. Like, there's players here that are costing the club money, but haven't had an injury record before they came to the club. So what is it about coming here that then they're getting injured? Is it something to do with the league? Is it the training? Is it the physios? What is it that's causing these players to get injured? Because there's money that we're not going to recoup because we're not going to get £5.5 million, £6 million back for Danilo. We're going to have to pay that £4.5 million for Cortez, and then we might sell him on, but we're never going to recoup that £4.5 either. So we're buying players to sell them on when we're not making a profit.
Mm-hmm. And Connor, it's easy for me to sit here and say this now, but Gallant's making the point that Sterling not just saying a contract extension as well. Well, yeah, he did, Connor. Yeah. And is that another thing? And again, hindsight's 2020, you can see all the metaphors you want, right? But is that another example of the decision makers at our football club spending more money on players who will basically hardly ever kick a ball?
Well, I mean, look.
Yeah. Or was the decision to give Sterling the contract extension the right one? Because just to play fair, I'd imagine you, Connor, Alex, you certainly have. When Sterling's been fit and available, we've all said he needs to be in the first team.
Of course, it's true. He does. I tell you what hasn't helped Sterling in terms of keeping him fresh and fit and off the injury table is the amount of different positions he's playing in all the time for us. There's not been a consistent area of the pitch that we've went, right, Dujon Sterling, that's your position. He has played every position apart from striker and goalkeeper for us. And listen, he's done a fantastic job. He's done what he's been asked to do when he's come in and done it. And we've all praised him for it, and rightly so, because he shows that real good team spirit that you need, and he's happy to do whatever is required to help the team. The problem is, again, you can't keep pushing him and pulling him around from one place to the other because different positions on a football park will require different levels of energy, of physicality, of different areas of the game. That's just the way it is. If you're playing in defence, for example, as a defender, then you're going to get involved probably in more, collisions with other players than you would if you're maybe playing, in the attacking midfield role. So it's things like that need better. I still think, given the fact he cost us $200,000, given the fact he is such a utility player, then I don't see a problem with offering him an extension because he's not going to be on huge wages either, really. So I think he's one that is okay to keep around, and when he's fit, if you can keep him fit, use him. But I think what we need to do is pinpoint a position for him and say, this is going to be his position, and when he's fit, that's the area of the park he's going to be fighting in, unless there's an absolute injury crisis and we need to put him somewhere else. Because
I'm
otherwise,
not being funny, Connor. Right? I'm not being funny. Right? Would Lewis Mayo have done a better job for Rangers than what Dujon Sterling's done? And I don't consider Lewis Mayo to be as good a player as Dujon Sterling. Right? I don't. But would he have done a better job for Rangers than what Dujon Sterling's done?
well, it depends in a defensive.
Would he have been more available? Would he have been more available than Dujon Sterling?
Yes, but would Lewis Mayo have been getting put into as many different positions? Would Lewis Mayo have been put out right wing or left wing? No.
He probably would have, because he's done that for Kilmarnock. He's been right back, centre back. He's been a bit of a utility player for Kilmarnock. And every time we've come up against him, where I've seen reports about Lewis Mayo, it's been, he's done really well. Now, I'm not saying Lewis Mayo's the answer to Rangers moving forward and winning league titles. All I'm saying is it seems to be the decisions that get made for the football club always seem to be wrong. Now, you take it back a few years, look at Katic, he's been down to Plymouth, the pressure on Plymouth to try and stay in that league. Every week, they're always talking about Plymouth. Ben Davies at Birmingham, he's their brick wall. There's another good few examples that I can't exactly think off the top of my head. But
Kieran Dowell, Scott Wright, the players that are performing well for Birmingham as well that couldn't do it for us.
Sam Lammers scored an absolute worldie the other night. Absolute worldie for 20, right? So it just seems to me, Alex, that the decisions that the football club is making, and this is out with the manager's control, right, are wrong constantly.
Yeah, I think some of these players, though, I think there's a need to perform. I think there's a need to perform with some of these players, and I think the pressure's probably got to them as well, because I know that what you're saying, like when you talk about Plymouth, they're fighting to stay in that league, but I think the pressure of playing for Rangers, the need to win every game and the desire from the fans to win every game has an effect on players, and they don't do it. Like, look at Dowell, wasn't fit to play every game for Rangers. Yeah, he's went down to Birmingham in League One, he's not missed a game yet. Scott Wright's played every game for Birmingham. Ben Davies has played every game for Birmingham. Katic has played. Like, these are players that were hardly fit to play 2 or 3 games on the bounce for Rangers, but yet they've moved away. Sam Lammers couldn't kick a barn door. Now he's scoring for fun at 20. It's like, why can they
give him the Dennis Bergkamp award apparently?
Why are they not able to score?
Sam Lammers did also score an absolute belter for Rangers against Dundee not long before he left. To be fair to him, and he's one that, we can talk about saying the board make wrong decisions, and listen, they absolutely do. But Sam Lammers is one that there was fan pressure for him to leave as well. The fans had written Sam Lammers off. We weren't interested in him. I did defend him on here a number of times, not because I thought he was a great player, but because I was very consistent in saying that Sam Lammers, when he signed for Rangers, was a striker, and never once did we play him as a striker. And my point always was, give him a game or two in the position that he's clearly the most natural in, and then let's see. You're writing off somebody who's not been allowed to play in his natural position, and that was my worry. But I think all things being equal, in the end was the right thing. It can't just be a pressure thing, though. It can't. Because, and I hate doing it, but it's the only team in Scotland that's have anywhere near comparison in terms of pressure levels. Celtic sign players all the time, and it never seems to faze a single one of the players they sign the pressure that they're under. Well, not a single one, but 99% of them are able to come in and handle it. No bother. They've had a couple of duds here and there, but not to the degree we've had. So that's not just about all these players can't handle pressure. It's also about identifying the correct players. And it's not even just a financial thing. Because when you look at when they dipped into the Japanese market, the money they spent for Kyogo, for Maeda, for Hitati, we could have afforded all 3 of those players as well. It wasn't a lot of money they spent for them, because Japan's not a particularly expensive market to go into. But we don't think outside the box like that. Admittedly, at the end of the day, that was Ange, to be fair, who thought outside that particular box. They wouldn't have went anywhere near Japan if Ange hadn't come in. But that's the kind of outside the box you need to think of as well, and go, right, there's got to be good players outside of just, the usual European walls that we look in, and go, right, is there players in that league we can look at? Is there somebody there? Because whoever comes in is probably not going to have experienced the pressure that you get at Rangers unless you sign somebody for Barcelona or Man United or something. That's not going to happen.
Well, we signed a young man from Man United on loan, did we not?
Ahmad, but he was, the difference is at that point he was literally fresh as a daisy out their academy. Since then he picked up. If we'd have got him after his Sunderland spell, totally different player.
Yeah, but I mean, there is opportunities there to sign these players from academies, but Rangers, for whatever reason, turned their nose up at it. You look at the fact that we did get Igamane, a player that most people wouldn't have looked at, great player and he will go on to do great things. But a lot of our scouting and a lot of our players actually turn their nose up at players and clubs, and we need to go for prestige players and players they've been great in the past years. But then you look at like the fact we're saying Lawrence, Dowell, Cantwell, these are players that are like getting old. Then they can come to Rangers because they'll do a job because they've got the experience, and they come and do nothing. They come and do nothing.
Right,
and then,
right. Sorry. On that, Alex, right, I have to bring this up. And it's Big Dave's point here, and it's just the last 3 words. No, 4 words. Players who can adapt, right? Are we giving players enough time to adapt, right? And I'm talking about the likes of Bayrami right now, right? Let's focus on Nadine Bayrami. Came into the club, first few games, we're looking at him going, right, we've got a player here, there's a player there, and his forms fell off the edge of a cliff, right? And now the general consensus seems to be sell him, get rid of him, we don't want him, he's not good enough for Rangers. Can we not give him longer to adapt, or is the position that we are in right now as a football club, we can't afford to give £4 million players time to adapt?
I think there's a bit of both in that. We can't give players time to adapt the position we're in, but we also said at the start of the pod that most of these games are going to feel like they don't actually matter. As long as we don't drop points, they're not going to matter. So maybe this is games where you do see Nadine Bayrami come in. I will also preference that by saying that a lot of guys on this pod have said that Bayrami looks like he'd be a second season player. He needs time to embed into the Scottish game, and come the second season, he will come good. But right now, the position we're in, we're watching such terrible football. Nobody looks interested. People aren't trying. We're scraping by in games. We're getting put out of cups, getting the worst results in our history. And then we're going, but he's not good enough. We're not giving him enough time. But then you can only pick 11 players. And we're talking about we want 6, 7 players going in. Clermont's not going to make that many changes. He's not going to play all the youth, play Bayrami, play Igamane, Dessers. All these players aren't going to get put in. But I do think that if we can give Igamane the opportunity to try and get over this rough patch that he's in, then we should be doing the exact same for Bayrami, because we're not doing a player's confidence any good when we're saying, you're shite, you can't run, you can't kick a ball, you can't get off, you can't move, but then saying, get him off. But he put in the best performance against that other team when he kept Callum McGregor quiet in the midfield. So we're saying he's putting a great performance there, but he can't play against the other teams.
Right,
Yeah.
So Blue Nose Bob Connor is saying Bayrami is lazy and looks disinterested. Aaron's saying Bayrami is a dud. He's far too lazy and doesn't like the physical battle. Is that fair?
I think he's inconsistent. I don't know. He's not lazy all the time and that he doesn't want to try. He does try. Sometimes he tries too hard. I just think that he is the type of person who seems to disappear too quickly in games when things are a bit tough and going against you. There are the odd exception. He scores a great goal against Aberdeen at Pittodrie to bring us back into that, to be fair to him. But again, I think as fans, when we're signing players, I think this should be done by scouting department and the club and all the rest of it. Actually look at the history of those players. And it doesn't take long. You can do a 5-minute Google search on a lot of these players and you'll find out what the kind of stats they are. Bayrami's a decent player, but the guy's an attacking midfielder who, and I've just had a look there, who has made 296 professional career appearances and scored just 39 goals. So he's not a prolific goal scorer. He's not going to go and score you even 10 goals a season. But what you're looking for him to do is be, involved more, is be a playmaker. Help.
Well, if you want to get more detailed on it, Connor, he scored 17 goals in 118 league appearances for Empoli and 3 goals in 48 league appearances for Sassuolo. So he's not a goal scorer.
And these are lesser clubs than Rangers. These are clubs that have infinitely less pressure on you than you do when you come to Rangers. Of course they are. But equally, you should be playing around a better quality of player at Rangers than a Sassuolo. But doesn't always work that way. Again, the other factor that comes into it that we haven't mentioned is about coaching as well. It's down to managers and coaches to get the best out of their players, to make sure they're ready for going into pressure cooker situations, make sure they understand. And I think what's difficult for us right now is we've got a manager who doesn't understand. So how can he possibly impart that on new players that come in the door? I mean, and I'm not going to go over all ground, but we've got a manager who doesn't understand why losing to Queen's Park is such a big deal and why it isn't just another defeat that you can move on for. That's a problem. If you don't have somebody who can get that, and that doesn't even need to be a Rangers man, I'm not saying that. That just needs to be a manager who gets, you're at a big club, there are certain expectations and levels you need to meet. And so that's part of the problem. But the other part is, as well, as the signing policy has to be different. I've said this and I've banged this drum for ages. Yeah, it's great signing young prospect players. You need to sign players that are ready to come in the door and do a job for you as well. You have to. And I know those players aren't cheap, and I get we have a budget. I understand that there's no money pouring out the walls of Ibrox. But
is that not what Bayrami was signed for, though?
Well, again, yeah, possibly. But is that the right type of signing for that type of role? If you look at those stats and you think, is that an attacking midfielder that's worth £4 and a bit million? Can you not get better? Somebody with better stats than that for £4 million? Yeah, is the answer to that. You can, probably in our own league as well. So that's about the scouting department making the right choices, because it's them that will come to the manager with players. Philip Come or whoever's in the manager's hot seat isn't out there watching all these players all the time. It's the scouting department. And Nils Coppin was part of that. But of course, we rewarded him by promoting him, and obviously we'll get to see what he can do there.
Well, Rhys Maguire, who's been a member for 2 months, thank you very much, Rhys. Can we talk about Conor Barron completely going missing, considering how he started this season, Alex? I think initially he was dropped. The preferred pairing was obviously Raskin and Diamande, and now he's picked up an injury.
It's a bit of a weird one with Conor Barron. Yes, he had a great start to the season, and the counterpart of Nico Raskin didn't. And I think that's why Conor Barron was played, because he was having a great start to the season. He was the player that we needed. He was in about that midfield. He wasn't struggling out of challenges. He was writing about it. We all said that he just needed to improve that passing game. Then Nico Raskin completely stepped up, got that midfield the way we needed it to be. Barron was dropped to the bench. Then he picked up a knock in training, and he's been out for a while. So there was reports that a few of the boys, I think it's Barron, Sterling and Danilo, look like they're on their way back. So hopefully he'll get back in the team and put a bit of competition in there for Raskin, as well as what Bailey Rice is meant to be doing. So that's 4 number 6s we'll have to put competition in for each other, because you can see sometimes that when players don't have pressure to know that there's somebody there to replace them, they'll play any game they want. So I think if you've got that competition for Diamande and Raskin in the likes of Bailey Rice and Conor Barron, we might start seeing variations as the season goes on, because we're in a position where there's nothing to play for.
How does that work then, Conor? That the 4 options for midfield. Conor Barron, he was dropped. I mean, unfairly maybe, because the way he started the season. But the manager's talked about Bailey Rice coming in there. You've got Raskin. You've got Diamande. How does that work, that midfield? Because there's only 2 positions.
Well, unless the manager decides to completely change the tactics and the formation, which he's not going to do, then it kind of doesn't. Somebody's going to miss out. Like Raskin, when he came in and came back into the squad, he hit form. He was playing really well. And to be fair, I know the last couple of games he hasn't hit the heights, but I wouldn't necessarily say that he's completely off the boil either. You know what I mean? He was still doing well. I mean, he was taking charge at times of midfield against Spurs and Man United as well. Can't forget that. He done great jobs in those games and got the plaudits for it. So once he started putting in those kind of shifts, he was never going to be dropped. And then the question became, right, well, who's in there with him? Is it Barron? Is it Diamande? Is it a Rice? Barron went in with him a couple of times. Didn't really work. We put in some stinking performances with the 2 of them in midfield because for whatever reason, despite the fact in the early days when the first couple of times they did play, it looked good. It then seemed to, I don't know why, weirdly fall off and just didn't work. And then Diamande came in and all of a sudden that seemed to spark it. So for me, pound for pound, Conor Barron is a better football player than Mohamed Diamande is. There's no question about that. And if you can find a way of getting him in that
I would
midfield,
completely disagree with that.
why? What's Diamande shown to put? Diamande is a decent player, but Diamande is also like Bambi and Ice sometimes. You don't get that for Conor Barron. He's a very
Yeah.
composed player.
In terms of an actual football player, though, I think Diamande's well ahead of Barron in terms of actually what he can do with the football.
Diamande offers us the one thing that Conor Barron doesn't right now, and that's goals. Yes, it's the occasional, but we keep saying this time and time again that our midfield needs to get goals, and Conor Barron just isn't the man for getting goals. Diamande is. He gets goals, he gets forward, he gets himself in the position where he can get the goals, and so does Conor Barron, but he just doesn't have a finish in him.
What I would say back to you though, Conor, is that I don't think Diamande's in the greatest of form, but I think that's also what's round about him. I think in terms of like what Alex said, there being a ball carrier and being able to do stuff on the ball and score goals. I think Diamande and Barron are two completely different players. I think if you're talking about doing that defensive work in the middle of the park with the sitter, I think that's Barron's role. But in terms of what Diamande can do moving forward with the ball, I don't think Conor Barron's anywhere near that.
Yeah, I would agree with that in terms of going forward. But your problem with Diamande is, and this is again in contrast with Conor Barron, is that where Diamande's weakness lies is in that more defensive side.
Which isn't his role on the team.
But he gives the ball away cheaply sometimes in midfield and then creates that problem, or he can't get that tackle. And you say no, it's not his role. The fact is, if you're in that midfield, that has to be part of your role. Part of any midfielder's role is helping out to protect your defence as well and making sure that you're controlling that midfield battle. And if that gets a bit loose and you're not able to consistently do it, that creates its own problem. Whereas Barron is a calmer player in those moments and will deal with that. He will mop up. Listen, I think you're right. Diamande will score you more goals than Barron, although how many has he actually scored this season, Diamande?
Listen, I get it.
But I just think it depends on what you're looking for your midfield. If you're looking for the midfield to be an attacking midfield and be hammering the brakes going forward, then brilliant. That's exactly what you want. If you find yourself in certain games and situations where you need a bit of calmness and a bit of control and a cool head in the midfield that will make things a bit more defensively sound, that's where you bring Conor Barron in. And that's kind of the issue, because Conor Barron is more of a, you would say, what, central defensive midfielder probably.
Yeah, you don't play Conor Barron next to Raskin because they just get in each other's way. So for me,
Raskin's not going to be dropped out. So then you're looking at, do you play Bailey Rice or do you play Diamande? That's your other option, right?
Well, your options are Raskin or Barron on one half of the midfield and Dio or Rice on the other. That's for me, that's your midfield options. I don't think Rice and Diamande would maybe work together. Maybe they might. Maybe Rice might prove me wrong. But I certainly, I've been looking back at some games. I know. I don't know why, but I have. And I think maybe Diamande's getting treated a wee bit harshly. I think he's actually been playing. I'm not saying he's been playing great, but I think he's been playing better than what some people have made out.
I think when you look at the position that Diamande's been played in, though, he's played in a formation where he has to act like a defensive midfielder, when his role in that midfield role is to get forward, is to create the chances, is to try and break the line.
To link up with the 10. His role's to link up with the 10.
Yeah, whereas Raskin's role is to break up play, be there and break up everything that's coming towards him. But that's obviously down to the formation, in that you would want a more formation where you can have Raskin sitting back on his own, but Dio was then told to get back and defend. But I totally agree that you can't have the two of them in together, but it's then who gets dropped, and that's the problem Clement's going to have. Now listen, it's a good problem to have, because you've got four good midfielders there that you want to play. You just need to find the partnership, and there's going to have to be rotation where you're playing two and then swap it if there's tiredness or there's anybody not playing well or picking up that game. Then you've got another two players to come in. It's whether or not Clement's going to have the confidence to do that and actually say, right, you need to be dropped for this game. I think this game's going to suit more this partnership. The issue is that in the Scottish game, the way we play, I don't think we need that 2 6s.
Yeah.
Right, moving on then, just before we finish up, I want to speak about the board and about how silent they've been, Connor, right? And I want to take this comment for channel member Dad of Purcell's Blue Boots. I'm not renewing my season ticket. Now, this might be a bit of a long question, and I apologise, Connor, in advance. I don't think it'll matter how many people do not renew their season tickets, because I think there's enough people waiting who will come in. There's some people waiting who will be offered it if people don't, and they'll say, shove it up your arse, don't want it, you're only doing the right job, right? But there's other people who are waiting on season tickets, Connor, that will snap them up, right? So I still think Rangers will sell out their 43, 44, 45,000 season ticket allocation. I don't think that'll be an issue. But there will be loads of people who have went to Ibrox with a season ticket for many, many years that are not putting up with this anymore, right? Is that the right thing, do you think, for the individual folks? And it's their choice, actually, so I'll take that question away because that's not a fair question. Should the board, however, though, Connor, have came out and spoke to us after that Queen's Park result? And is it actually a bit of a joke that it's now 2 weeks later and we've heard nothing?
Well, I mean, look, I was very much in the mindset last week that the board have to say something. I thought, this is the worst result, just factually the worst result this club has ever had in the cup at home. It just is. You know, it's the first time a lower league club has beat us in a cup competition at home. That can't happen. That is unacceptable at every level. The captain knew it. He was brutally honest when he came out and said it. But the board staying silent didn't help anything, because it led to people spending the week going, what is going on at this club? And then there's rumours that started speculating on the Tuesday, Wednesday, whilst you were in Morocco, that on social media, that Coman had agreed to leave the club, but for less money than he'd have got if he was paid off. That obviously wasn't true. But again, much like the WhatsApp rumours that happened before it, it was allowed to run rampant because the club said nothing. Now, I understand the point that people will make and say, but well, what are they going to say? Because if they're not sacking him, then what's the point? What are they going to come out and say? And I get that. But after a situation like that, you have to give some sort of justification to the fans for why that man is still in post. You cannot have a manager lose a game like that and then just happily continue on like nothing's happened. Silverware is gone this season. Gone. Now, it will be the first season actually in 3 years that we haven't won any silverware, because we've managed to pick up a couple of cups the last 2 years. But that's much of a muchness, really. You know, you look at the trophy record overall, nowhere near good enough, and we spoke about it. So for the club to sit on their hands after such a humiliating defeat, it beggars belief. And if you're Patrick Stewart, who's new into the job, you don't need question marks hanging over your head so early, but there already is, because people are thinking, what is the plan here? You know, a lot of their fans will make the joke about us and say, oh, you know, next season FC, next season FC. It's the board that are making us next season FC. It's them who are doing it, because Patrick Stewart is sitting there in his ivory tower, clearly back and come on saying, well, look, next season, we'll wait till next season. You know, there was even, I think, rumour somebody said in the hospitality suite at Ibrox after the game that, you know, Judge come on next year. Now, I don't know if that's entirely true or exactly what happened, but there was words to that effect apparently said. That can't happen. At the end of the day, we are, 18 months into the Clermont era at the club, and since probably round about this time last year, late February, early March, since that Motherwell game, it's been one calamity after the other. Thrown away a league title last year, thrown away a chance at silverware this year by getting knocked out of cup by a low league opposition. I'll give Coman the League Cup final. I don't think he could have done much more there. You know, you need a bit of the rub of the green to go for you, and it didn't on that day because we're denied a stonewall penalty. But that's about all he gets a free pass for. Everything else, I can't see the direction is improving. And we keep signing young player after young player and going, there for the future, there for the future. About how many years? Are we going to wait until they're on 9 and then go, right, now we need to win the league title this year again to stop 10? Because we can't win one trophy, one league every 10 years, Martin.
No, but it's sort of looking that way, isn't it? What I will say is, but the Patrick Stewart thing, where he was talking in the kind of members area, was before Queen's Park. So That was well before Queen's Park. But again, Alex, as Pat, I mean, there's a comment here, and from Ian, I've got question marks now over Patrick Stewart. We don't know Patrick Stewart's remit. We don't know the power that he's got. We don't know if he's allowed to do his job properly, because I don't trust Douglas Park as far as I can throw him, which incidentally isn't very far. So we don't know the remit that Patrick Stewart's got.
No, we definitely don't know the remit he's got. Sorry, I was just attracted to the fact that Connor just disappeared. But we don't know the remit he's got at all. But it's a sad state of affairs when he comes in. The first thing he tells the fans that he's going to be more active, more engaging. He's going to come out and have effective conversations with the fans. And then as soon as we have a bad defeat, it's complete radio silence. It doesn't paint him in a good picture at all with the fans, because what's going to take us to win a trophy or a good signing, a good window, whatever, for him to come out and say something to the fans, have a good chat? You can't come out when we're having good results. You need to come out in the good and the bad. This was definitely a point for him to come out, have a serious conversation with the fans, and as Connor pointed out, tell us why Clement is still in the job, because that was the one question every single Rangers fan wanted the answers to. Why is he still in the job? And he didn't come out. And I get sometimes
he did to an extent, and he says, look, the performances have to improve. Now, Alex, I'll put this to you, and then Connor, you can come in.
That was before Queen's Park knocked us out the cup at Ibrox.
I'm going to put it to Alex, and then you can come in, Connor, right? And I'm playing devil's dick advocate here, right? Take away, and I know it's really difficult, right? But take away the Queen's Park thing in the cup. Out with that, since Patrick Stewart came out and said that performances have to improve in the league, have we improved?
I mean, we haven't improved in terms of the way we've looked. In terms of getting results, yes, we've improved. We're starting to get wins. We're getting wins on the board. What is that? 5 in the bounce, 6 in the bounce now. We've won without a loss in the league. So yes, in terms of the league performance, we're getting a lot better. But the issue is, though, that we pointed out our only chance at a bit of silverware, and that's where we've looked the poorest. So again, when the pressure was on the players, they bottled it, and we hear nothing from the board. We hear nothing from Patrick Stewart in a time where we actually want to hear and we need to. But I do agree with you. Yes, we have got points on the board, but can you sit and say, Martin, that we're playing exciting football? We're playing football that the fans deserve to see, because right now we are playing nowhere near the potential of this club. We've got players there that can play some great football, yet it's actually depressing to watch, and we're only watching it probably, one, because it's your job to watch and do this podcast, and two, because as fans, I actually want to watch the game. I like doing these pods. I like coming on the watch-alongs. See, if I wasn't, I don't think I'd watch the game. I'd be like, I'm not that interested. I'd do anything else.
Just before you jump in, Connor, right? The reason that I bring that up, now it's not my opinion. It's just an argument that I'm bringing for why Clement's maybe still in a job, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe Patrick Stewart's looked at the league for him, Connor, and he's getting results away from home. He's getting, 5 or 6 wins in a row, or whatever it is. Now, the Queen's Park thing's a big thing to take out. I understand that. I get that. And if it may have been a completely different conversation. If we were 13 points clear of Celtic, then people would be raging with the Queen's Park thing, but you could move past it, right? I get that. But from Patrick Stewart's point of view, could he come out and go, "Oh yeah, all right, Queen's Park was embarrassing, should never have happened. That, and we hope that never happens again. But look at what league for."
Yeah, well,
just asking the question. Don't have a go at me.
Well, he could, yeah, but too little, too late. Sorry, but the league's done. Great, we're starting to pick up wins in the league, but after we've already handed them an almost unassailable lead. I sat here in Friday, in the Friday night Rabble, and much like you did there, Martin, I was playing devil's dick advocate, and I was trying to put the case that, listen, there is a connotation of results that could happen, and we could win the league. They could drop points away at Hibs. We could win. But we all know, right? If and when Celtic do drop points, I guarantee you we'll drop points that weekend as well, because that's what we do. It's what we've always done.
Yeah, but since Stewart said that, since Stewart said that, Connor, this is my point. Since Stewart said that, Queen's Park, 100% taking that. But outside that, in the league, since Stewart said that, results have improved.
In the league, But that again, as I say, it's to and the fact is that that Queen's Park result is so bad, particularly when let's look at Queen's Park for a second, shall we? The week before they played Rangers, they played the team at the bottom of the Championship, Airdrie, they lost. The week after they played Rangers, they played the team second bottom in the Championship, Hamilton, lost. These are teams that are absolutely struggling for their life at the bottom of the Championship, and they're beating Queen's Park, no problem. And okay, yes, you can say, look, their levels were up, their goalkeeper had an unbelievable game. Some of the saves he was producing was ridiculous. I grant that. He saved a penalty kick as well at the end, which Tav needs to do better with and needs to score. But he doesn't. And that's his own problem. But all we can do, and I said this on Friday, all the players can do now is continue to try and win games of football in the league and see where it gets you, if it gets you close to Celtic. The problem is that we could win the games we've got between now and when we go to Parkhead in a few weeks' time. And do you, Alex, or anybody else in the comments actually believe we've got it in us to go to Parkhead and get a result? I mean,
do you want to know what the sad thing is?
I do.
No, but do you want to know what the sad thing is? I mean, obviously it matters playing your rivals, you want to beat them. But see how with Celtic being our rivals, doesn't matter if we beat them.
No.
Well, again,
it's another case where, and I don't really listen to Celtic fans, but it's another case where Celtic fans can turn around and go, "Aye, do you know what? You beat us, but every time you beat us, it's no matter."
Right.
Can they say that though? And just bear with me here. If they drop points against Hibs this weekend, which is an away game again, it's an away game against an informed Hibs team, so I don't think they can walk in there taking 3 points for granted. But what I will say is, if that happens, and if we, and again, it's all ifs and buts, I get that, right? But if that were to happen and we call back a couple of points on them and say it's 11 or 10 points going into that game, then you win that game, you could be 7 or 8 points behind them. That feels a bit less comfortable than 13.
All it takes is for us to get an injury to our striker, though.
Is what I'm saying. Instead of giving them a championship procession between now and the end of the season, what these players can do is at least apply some pressure. And then when they do step up, you take advantage. You go to Celtic Parkhead, Wilf, and you beat them. And then you at least ask a question. You go, you're going to keep winning games now. So if you slip up, we'll take advantage of that. That at least means they'll go into those games knowing. Because right now they're getting into games going, fuck it, we lost 10-0 in this game. It really doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Whereas if you narrow the gap, I'm just saying it can feel a little bit less comfortable.
Yeah, but there's not many games left, to be fair. So it doesn't really matter, to be brutally honest. And listen, I'm in the same boat as you. I mean, before the Queen's Park game, Clement should have went for me. Certainly after the Queen's Park game, he should have went. I was just trying to come in from a different angle to see if there's any specific reason why the board haven't done that, or even why the board haven't come out and spoke to us. And I don't think anybody knows the answer to that. Which leads to also, is it money? Is it financial? Can we not afford to sack Clement? I don't think it is. I think we can afford to sack him. And if we can afford to sack him, does that actually make it worse that we haven't sacked him? If the board came out and went, look, financially right now we can't afford to sack the manager, I think most of the fans would go, raging, where's the money gone? But all right, you've come out and you've told us. But the fact they haven't come out and said anything, I think it's making the situation worse. And like I say, moving forward, and I'll be really interested in Saturday to see what the attendance figure is. And not this fake stuff that football clubs do where they automatically just count the season ticket holders anyway, as if they're actually there when they're not. It'll be interesting to see. I know certain clubs over the years have done that. But anyway, we shall leave it there. Listen, folks, thank you very much for tuning in and watching. Please do like, share, subscribe, and all that good stuff. It's not the best, but you can see there my lovely little Rangers Rabble jumper. Our merch is available, and it is available now. And like I've said in the past, if you spend $49.99 or more, then you are automatically entered into a draw to win a brand new PlayStation 5. All you have to do is email over proof that you've spent the money to rabbleisland@gmail.com, and you will automatically be entered into a draw for a PS5. And as soon as we've got enough people entered, we will let you know, and we will get the draw done. And if you like the show and you want to help support us a wee bit more, then you can do so by becoming a member on either YouTube or Patreon, whatever one you prefer. The link for both are in the description. So thank you for all the support that we currently get. We're racing towards 350 members, which is incredible. I want to try and get that up to 400 before the end of the season, if possible. So if that's something that you feel like you could do, then try it out. Like you say, if you're a CEO or sponsor member, then at 9 p.m. tonight, you will be seeing Connor's face. I probably shouldn't have said that. It's going to put people off now. For the EPL show at 9 p.m, he will be joined by Brian for that. And once you're a member for over a month, you get into the Discord and you get your afternoon rabble every day. You get your movie review shows. You get the WWE shows. You get hundreds of stuff. There's loads of stuff there. Alex, Connor, thank you very much.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you for jumping in, Connor, after Mark's internet issues. It's usually me with internet issues. But it was Mark tonight, so thank you very much. Thank you for the super chats as well, folks. Thank you for all the likes and subscribes. And if you haven't done that, do it now. For members, for CEO and sponsor members, we'll see you at 9 p.m. And then the rest of the members will see you for the afternoon rabble tomorrow. And then me and David are back on public YouTube on Wednesday. So until then, folks, take care, and we shall speak very, very soon.